So when we talk about lipless crankbaits, you know, most people, when they're fishing lipless crankbaits, it's hard to fish it wrong. I mean, you can pretty much just cast it out and crank it in. But there's three techniques that I really rely on with lipless crankbaits and what makes it just deadly under all kinds of conditions, from hot water to cold water and everything in between. Okay, and here it is. This is JB Rattler, of course, that we feature for Muskies and Pike, a Joe Bucher Outdoors product. But there's a lot of great lipless crankbaits, a lot of smaller ones out there in the market. Very few that are bigger, but three techniques that really shine for me with lipless crankbaits. One is just cast it and burn it. That's it. You cast it out and just burn it in. And a lot of guys fish lipless crankbaits that way, and they're really successful with it and works super good over shallow water. And you can, you know, one of the cool things is that this is a sinking crankbait, so it's not a floater. So unlike a floater that the slower you retrieve it, the shallower it goes, it's just the opposite with these. The faster you retrieve it, the shallower it goes. So a lot of times what I do with this burn technique is I cast it out, and if I'm bumping bottom with it, I burn it with a high rod, I burn it even faster. And then as soon as I stop hitting bottom, I'll slow down a little bit and just keep cranking it all the way out. And of course, when you're muskie or pike fishing, you always finish with a figure eight, because you're going to catch fish doing that. You know, probably 40 to 50% of your fish are going to catch it both sides. So that's a key technique, and one that I rely on a lot. But here's another one that works really good in cold water. In cold water is just a cast and crawl. So you cast it out, you know, just get it going a little bit, and then just let it just sink all the way to the bottom where it's bumping bottom a little bit, and you pick it up and you just crank it just fast enough so it's wobbling, but it's staying real tight to the bottom. And again, because the lure sinks, the lure wants to get back down there, especially when you slow it down. The weight of the lure overtakes the speed you retrieve and starts to go deeper, and then you can just match that speed and feel it out when you're cranking it. So if you're bumping bottom, you speed it up just a little bit, you know, and you know, if it starts to bump bottom, you speed it up a little bit again, you slow down. So you're keeping that bait real close to the bottom. And that's really deadly in cold water. In cold water, man, I've caught so many big smallmouths like that. You can't believe it. I've caught big redfish in Florida in that 40 and 50 degree water temperature. It's a killer on muskies. Folks, you muskie anglers, if you're not fishing this lure in the spring and early summer in cold water with that technique, you're missing the boat. But here's another one, and here's one that we employ a lot. And I say we, my friends that know how to fish this bait, especially like the dude Chaz Martin, knows how deadly this lure is. Steve and Paul has caught a lot of big fish on lipless crankbaits, the JB Rattler, and that is the lift and drop, or the crank and drop technique. So it's a combination. You cast it out and you start with that burn, but then you let it drop to the bottom. You completely stop and let it drop to the bottom, and then kick it back up again, and then let it drop, and you kick it back up again with your rod tip and a combination of rod tip and cranking with your reel, and let it drop again. And a lot of big fish smack it on that drop. I've caught so many big bass. It's just really, it's countless how many big bass, big pike, and muskies I've caught with that lift, drop, lift, drop. It's your lift, drop technique, and it's really cool because you're fishing it like a jigsaw, so to speak, that vibrates. And by the way, on the rivers and current with that technique, it's a killer. So here again, summarize. Three techniques: just cast and burn. The second technique, cast and crawl for cold water. And the third technique is the lift and drop technique. And you can mix those up in any retrieve. Big muskies. I remember one trip, caught like the three biggest muskies on the trip, fishing with a dude, filming one of my last full episodes of fishing with Joe Bucher, last full seasons. I mean, we went on that trip and we caught a lot of fish on that trip, but the three biggest muskies on that trip came on this lure. So it catches big muskies, it catches numbers, it catches big game fish, it catches both big fish and numbers, and it's an all-season bait. Do not go on the water without lipless crankbaits. They can really make your day, and they can make your trip. They can save a trip.